I'm bored. Bobby went to go wash his truck. Monkey's asleep. Oh, for anyone who's judgmental about this, if you're a smoker, starting off, if you're a smoker, before you had kids, more than likely you didn't think fucking twice before lighting up a cigarette right next to somebody else's. So don't act like you care. Plus, half of the moms out there that are 18 and at home, no job, and still living with their parents are probably doing the same goddamn thing that I'm doing right now. Which is absolutely fucking nothing. But what am I gonna do? I have absolutely no education or anything. No transportation. I'm looking at the camera right. So I'm looking at my picture. There's nothing to do. Guess I could talk about my pregnancy that I had, because I never got to do any videos, but I watched a lot of Gabe and Jessica, which I should just say that just from the look on her face and when she's talking about the breakup, that Gabe was the ass in the situation. But anyways, I'll talk about my old pregnancy. I was 17 and I live in this trailer park. Yeah, I know. What a fucking cliche. I was 17, I lived in this trailer park for about a year. And I was in a 4-year relationship with this guy that I knew my entire life. And I broke up with him because he was being severely abusive. And I was smoking pot at the time. Wow, big surprise, my username. That's when I made the account. That's why that's my username now. I don't smoke anymore. I actually had to go to outpatient rehab for 3 months to get my son back because of it. So anyone who's on Medicaid, or not on Medicaid, whatever, don't smoke pot while you're pregnant, because they will take your kid. They'll tell you they won't, but they will. Well, I was 17 and I lived in this trailer park. As soon as I broke up with my ex, I went to go get a bag of weed. So I called my friend and I told them, meet me out there at the dock. So it was like 6:30 and the dock is like right in front of my house. I mean, we live right on the lake. And right on Lake Arlington, which isn't even fucking there anymore because it's all dried up and looks like there's grass growing on there. It's ridiculous. You can see birds walking. It's like a foot deep. And I went and sat on the dock. There was water at the time. I went and sat on the dock, and there was this guy out there. It was all tatted up. And I know, that's my type. He was all tatted up and had his head shaved, big old peckerwood tattoo on the side of his head. I was like, I don't judge people by the way they look. And plus, that's like the type of person that I hang out with. And we started talking, and he's 30 at the time. And I told him, well, we started hitting it off. I told him I was 18 at the time because I wanted to smoke with him. I didn't know it was going to turn into a relationship. And I was like, I'm getting a bag, so you want to smoke? So he was like, yeah, my family smokes. Come on up to my trailer and we'll smoke and chill. And we went up there. One thing led to another. And 2 months later, I was pregnant. Which, at the same time, they found out that his sister was pregnant, and she was 3 months ahead of me. So, when everyone found out that I was pregnant, and they found out that she was pregnant at the same time, everyone was getting drunk at her house because they were pissed off that she was pregnant, And he was getting drunk and popping fireworks outside because he was celebrating that I was pregnant. Before we found out, I had told him my real age. I told him 3 weeks after we had been dating because I was just so nervous to tell him the truth. But in the state of Texas, you're considered an adult when you're 17. Anyways, by then I got kicked out of my house. Not because of the pregnancy or anything like that, but because my mom was mentally unstable because she had a hysterectomy. And it threw her off balance. So she had to go in the state hospital. And none of my family could be here at this house because we had to get a mental health warrant and all of that. So I couldn't live here. I didn't want to have a miscarriage because she was just so irate. So I moved in with him and his mom, his godmother. And where was I on this story? Another reason why you shouldn't smoke, it messes up your brain permanently. Where was I? Oh, so I found out when I was pregnant at 10 weeks. And I moved back in with my dad when my mom was in the hospital. By then I was probably about 5 months pregnant. There were not any complications at all in the pregnancy. And I felt movement at I know people say it's impossible, but I felt movement at least 12 weeks. It was just little flutters, but I knew it was movement. You know, your body. And you don't feel that stuff before you're pregnant. And let me just skip ahead to the labor part because I didn't do weekly updates, and it'd be really boring to just sit here and do weekly updates on shit that happened back then. So the labor part, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, April 8th. My due date was April 11th, and I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I started having contractions, and he did not drop until I went into labor. And I was having contractions, very intense, a minute apart, stuck at 1 centimeter. And I went to the hospital and broke down and went to the hospital about 4 o'clock in the morning. They kept me there until at least 7:30, and they said, okay, we're gonna send you home because you're stuck at 1 centimeter. And I was like, you're not sending me home. I'm bleeding. I'm screaming my head off, and I can barely move. I mean, if you've look up my videos of the contractions, shitting a knife, that was my contractions. And that was after they eased up some. That was a little one. I was screaming my head off. And they were like, okay, well, we'll give you these Ambien, and they're gonna calm down your contractions, and we'll send you home. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, I really don't want to leave. I'm like, oh no, I'll just be coming right back up here, and I live in Fort Worth, and it takes forever to get back up to the hospital, and it's a waste of gas, and I know I'm gonna have to come right back up here. And they were like, well, you can try walking around. So I went and I walked around for about an hour. Bobby smoked a cigarette, and we went back up there, and they gave me the Ambien. I think that's what it was called. I was so exhausted from the contractions. I was just like, whatever. So I took the pills, 2 little bitty pills, and about 30 minutes later, boom, those contractions got so much worse. I could not imagine that they were going to get worse, but they got worse. It feels like shitting a knife while, somebody's sticking a big one of those